A big turning point in my life happened when I was in 7th grade and I was 12 years old. A friend of mine, Madison, who I'm pretty sure was jealous of me for one reason or another, accused me of calling her a lesbian and hitting her. I was not at all a violent child, nor would I do anything like that. I was speaking to my friend Jessica at the time, who was a lesbian, and we were talking about what it was like, and I was asking her questions because I never heard of anything like that before, and nobody in my grade or even in my school had come out at that point in time. We were at the start of our adolescence, a time where people were discovering themselves and feeling the social pressures around them to fit in. So, though my friend was sure she was gay, she was scared to tell her friends and family and made the impression to me that I was the first person she came out to, which, unknowns to me at the time, I was. So I asked her, "Does Madison know?" And Madison happened to be walking a few paces behind us. She overheard only a few words of the conversation and made the assumption that I was calling her a lesbian. Keep in mind this was before the time that the Supreme Court ruled that same-sex marriage cannot be banned in the country, so it made sense for kids to still see it as an offensive term. I had never gotten in trouble before, and I knew I had done nothing wrong, but when you're sitting in the vice principal's office and phone calls are being made to your parents, you can't help but feel defenseless. I couldn't make out any words because of how upset I was, so I just gave in, sat there, and cried. Even my parents took this as an admission of guilt. I was the girl who had only been talked to by teachers to be praised, now all of a sudden an in-school suspension for a whole day. It was by far the worst day of my life up to that point. After this, I went into a long phase of depression. It started when I was 12 years old and lasted until I was 15, right around the end of my sophomore year. I was nasty to my parents, cruel to myself, and I went into a really dark place. Of course, something like this can't happen overnight, and it certainly can't be caused by just one event. But I do believe that that day played a big part in the spark of my own personal dark age. When my dad and brother came to pick me up that day, all they seemed to do was interrogate me. Question after question, I sat emotional in the back seat, telling them I didn't do anything, and they didn't believe me because I was only 12, so what would I know? Especially in my state of tears. I soon learned to stop trying to convince them of my innocence and let them believe what they wanted to believe. To this day, I'm sure they still think I was in the wrong. My mother came home from work that day around 4 to find me sobbing in her room, as I had been for the past few hours. She sat down next to me for a few moments of silence, and then she turned to me, and rather than asking me what happened or accusing me of anything, she simply said, "Do you want to get some ice cream?" So we went to the local ice cream shop, and I got a vanilla cone with rainbow sprinkles. My mother got her usual chocolate swirl, and we talked about anything and everything for the next hour. That's the reason why I can look back on this day and say it was the worst day of my life, but probably the most important day too. This is my most vivid memory from my childhood, when my mother's goal was to make sure that I was okay, instead of asking me questions she knew would make me more upset. This gives way to much of my mother's general attitude, always putting others before herself, always being compassionate and kind, and most importantly, showing her children that one event doesn't define the person who you are or the person you could be. This was significant in my life because, even though it was the start of some really difficult times for me, it also taught me the kind of person I want to be in life, the kind that puts others' needs before their own wants. And I want to be the kind of mother who her kids can talk about one day the way that I talk about my own mother, proud and grateful.